it's interesting, and I'm currently in this role, so I worked in the cloud space for a while. Now I'm in systems group, kind of a hardware division traditionally. And one of the challenges IBM faces is that born on the cloud providers like Amazon, Google, born after 2000, after they expanded out of email, is we have so much content, data, and customers that are running in-house in their data centers. To move these applications, these capabilities, these clients to the cloud is a much different challenge than if you actually were to spin off a new startup, design all your applications from the beginning on the cloud, and then expand those out. So while we're trying to do that, we're also facing some of the new technologies like containers that just pop up overnight, right? Mm-hmm. And how does that change the mindset when all of your clients were using virtualization prior to this notion of a container that can scale out and scale up much more quickly than a virtualized image, right? So when you talk about differentiation, there are a few different angles to look at it from. As Phaedra pointed out, with our R&D division coming out with new capabilities like Watson, what you'll see from IBM now is a lot of our artificial intelligence capabilities creating or becoming born on the cloud applications through Bluemix that now you as a developer can go to Bluemix, leverage one of the Watson services that are out there, create a whole new application from that, and that application is running on the cloud by default, right? Because you create that application on the cloud using some of Watson services. Amazon doesn't have an AI division yet. Microsoft is ramping up one very quickly, right? So you're seeing a bunch of vendors kind of go at it from a different angle. I mean, what we're doing is leveraging our expertise across the company in various different ways. Even the systems group capabilities, such as our Z systems, have a lot of built-in security aspects that are built into the system itself, like cryptography, like various types of multi-factor authentication, that when you put one of those systems underneath the cloud that's being created, you automatically create a more secure environment than what some other cloud providers can offer at the moment. A lot of times you won't see that in the press just because it's not the whiz-bang nice things that you hear about, unless somebody gets hacked. You know, so security is a big topic on the next pages, on the next day's front page. So there are a few different ways that IBM is going about trying to differentiate in the market, realizing that cloud at this point is more market-driven than it is technology-driven. So we're trying to merge the two because we have a lot of innovative technologies.
Can you talk about how MBA students or in general KFBA students can get hands-on on Watson technologies? Is there a channel? I know that there's a Watson Academy program and you have affiliations with certain universities, but I'm not sure if you have it with Kin Flagler.
UNC Chapel Hill is a member of IBM's academic initiative. Everything is described as completely free. And in fact, there's an app lab and a makerspace, or multiple makerspaces now at UNC Chapel Hill, which are getting tricked out with Watson and the cloud, Linux cloud. So we're actually embedding curriculum in the on-campus makerspaces, including how-tos on what I described with the drones, the wearables. We've got a TJ bot, which we're bringing in, so their own robot. So you've got access.
Now it's probably on main campus.
Yep.
I remember when I was here, I didn't go over to main campus.
I've been to the Makers Lab. I've been to the Makers Lab. I didn't get a chance to see Watson implementation in place, but I'm just curious how we as business school students can probably just log in on the App Store and try our hands out on some data that we have.
What you do is go through IBM's academic initiative
Right.
and log in with your .edu email address.
Okay.
And with that .edu, you get free access to the Lumix cloud that has those APIs and services.
Perfect. Thank you.
So this is a much less technical question now, but is there a place where you could just chat with Watson? Like if you watch the commercials, there's that box and some famous person is having a conversation. Does that exist? Like is that in IBM's room somewhere and you can just go talk to them?
Not even in an IBM room. It's all online. There's actually Watson demos for not just the Watson conversation ability, but just about everything I've described to you, even the image recognition, the conversation bot, the IoT stuff. There's demos where you can actually try it out yourself without coding anything. You can get the play around.
You can upload the picture and Watson will say what it is in this picture.
Yeah, is this President
Like
Obama?
the
Yeah.
chair, table, person, like male person, female person,
Ah.
with this or that probability.
And there's more and more demos coming all the time. In fact, we're working on a kit that we're going to release around VR and Watson, which is going to be super cool.
So thank you for coming in the session. About IBM Watson, like, it's amazing what you can do, but I can imagine that you have some boundaries about ethics and how it can influence some privacy in this stuff. So like you're saying, they're telling for the policeman, and like he's sleeping, he's going out with his family, and he's wearing that all the time. And what are the lines that you said that you were not crossing, and how the industry is behaving about that?
IBM is a member of a morality and ethics board associated with AI, with Google, with Amazon, with Microsoft. So all the big tech companies have a consortium around this. And this is a very big issue that has a lot of focus. And right now it's very much opt-in, right? So, you know, with, for example, the mental wellness app for police, it says, here's the kinds of things that, you know, you please agree, you've got to accept that we're going to be monitoring and looking at this kind of stuff. But for the police in particular, in order to even get this to work, you've got to be able to say, your police chief isn't going to have access to this, or know that it's you, it's anonymized. You see what I'm saying? Because if I'm the chief of police and I know this cop over here, Joey, who hasn't been sleeping, is really in this trough of depression, why would he ever use his Fitbit or be truthful to an app, right? So the whole premise is, you've got to understand the culture before you go and deploy the app, and have a really good understanding as to sort of the mechanisms of how it would actually work for people to be truly engaged.
Just a follow-up question, sorry. And I was thinking, you know, when Facebook launched, it had a privacy policy, and it changed through time. And it might happen too with this kind of technology. And how we can be sure that in the future our information will not be sold or be shared with companies for advertisement or this kind of stuff.
I think we need to look at legislation. And I don't know how closely you've been following the news, and I could go on and on about this with regards to sort of the political spectrum and what government has access to these days, but this is something we should all be very cognizant about. That's all I'm going to say. As Marcus wants to say.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get on that soapbox. One question I have though is the ethics course still taught here as part of the MBA program?
Yes.
Okay, that's good, because one of the things that's coming out is you're saying, often hidden behind the First Amendment, right to free speech. I'm saying a lack of ethics in general, right? And if you think back over history to how dynamite was originally created to help with mining, and then somebody found another reason or another purpose for it, right? That's going to happen with any new innovation, unfortunately. But if we continue to produce leaders like you all that go through the training, understand the value of not only the triple bottom line, which I think is still sustainable enterprise notions here, but also ethics in anything we do, it'll help corporations who have access to this innovation continue to use it to the best of their ability for the right reasons. So making your day-to-day lives easier versus using it for some nefarious reasons, right? So I urge you all, as you go off into you graduate and go off to your day jobs, take those lessons from the ethics course with you. It's definitely come in handy for me, and I'm sure my other colleagues, because you will be in some conversations with team members who didn't go through King's Life, didn't have that training.
Thanks.
Kind of just like a 10-year, 20-year look at it. I know Elon Musk has made some incendiary comments on artificial intelligence and where that's going. Working within that world and kind of looking long term at the effect on kind of the world. Where do you go with that?
How much time do we have? Seriously, this is like an hour-long talk.
Take your minute at a time.
With some other hands. So, one of my big areas of focus has been which is basically kind of like this group that helps relay trends on where it's seeing, like for example with AI, in order to help steer the company in certain directions. It's not just me, there's like a whole bunch of people, right? But with this vantage point and sort of seeing what's happening, not just with Watson and artificial intelligence and how it can be used to augment people's jobs and what they do and the kinds of skill sets they need, then you see things like automation, right? Did you read about Amazon Go? And now you don't need any grocery store clerks? And there's now robots that are showing up in McDonald's who are handling your orders. You've got the advent of autonomous vehicles, so now no more taxi drivers, no more truck drivers. So there goes your retail clerks, there goes your truck driver, right? So this completely changes the landscape of jobs and what's going to be available. And so now there are people who are really thinking like, oh my God, we've got to completely change what we're teaching in the classroom, right, in a big way, and really transform education in general, the culture of education. Now, there's a whole bunch of challenges associated with this, and I actually have some really great stories. So if you want, pull me aside afterwards, because I've really got this great story. But I think this education, even though we, and when I say we, I mean North Carolina, the United States of America, are not spending anywhere near as much money and investment as I think we should be in education. I think this has to change. This has to change. You can't just say, I'm going to put legislation which is going to stop automation, artificial intelligence, driverless vehicles. There's nothing you can do to stop that train. So you have to, at some point, we're going to have to address culture change, what is taught in schools in a very, very big way. This is something we're going to have to do really, really soon. And obviously,
I have a relating question. Having Adam here, so what advice can you give to an average student from our class to get like from the first data analytics class to like working on IBM Watson?
Is that for me? Is that for Adam?
It's for Adam and for you.
Yeah, I mean, well, my question was, and this is like the very ground level question, the way, let's assume everyone in the room knows about linear regression, you know a little bit about like clustering, maybe classification trees, these types of things. Like, can you give us like a broad sketch of like how Watson works?
How Watson works in
Yeah,
general?
what's
The secret sauce?
I mean, you know, about an NDAs, right? But this like.
In essence, it's a technology based on OpenStack, so it has open APIs, and as I mentioned, there isn't this one Watson. It's now sort of a brand more than anything else. It's this brand that is being stamped on multiple different kinds of modular APIs. So I don't know if that helps you, but the core essence is a system that has a basic way of being able to taught, as I mentioned, patterns. And there's kits that come with it. And the kit basically says, okay, for example, for image recognition, just as I showed you earlier with the two pieces of paper, like I'm going to show you 50 positive, 50 negative, and now it's going to start to learn. In fact, we've gotten into a point where there's this one version of Watson, this one API called trade-off analytics. And what the games industry is starting to use it for is something called gameplay balancing. So this means that, you know, I've got this casual game. It's called Plight of the Zombie. So this is actually a real use case. And I want to serve up a level of the game that is neither too difficult nor too easy for the player, because I want the exact amount of tension, right? So we got it down to, it's about 35 lines of code in trade-off analytics and about 3 tries of the player in order for it to learn, here's where this person's skill set is and what they can handle and not handle. So those kinds of things, right, is what these different APIs can do.
But I think the other aspect of your Vino's question is, so if you all have your MBAs, right? So these are MBAs here. What's the right what should they be learning, right? And this is for me who's teaching them, and also for them who's like exploring, you know, what courses to take as electives and these kind of things. Like, should they get deep into the technology? Should they think about the strategy? Should they do both? Are there missing competencies that are needed in this world?
In my estimation, and mind you, I suspect you ask 100 IBMers, you're going to have 100 different answers potentially, right? In my estimation, there are people who are really great in the technology, but can't connect the dots. If I've got a head of transportation, head of a transportation company, and he's sort of scratching his head saying, oh, what can Watson do for me? You might have a technologist saying, and here's the technology and exactly what it can do, but not be able to connect the dots to transportation. So someone who can both sort of understand what the tech can do and then be able to relay it or have the vision for what it can do in specific kinds of industries. I think that's a big one. So, you know, both the business understanding, the business development acumen, but then being able to tie it to solutioning, I think is a big, big skill set that is needed. You guys?
I think expertise is, we're not looking for one specific person or one specific, we're looking for different, to bring everything together. You don't have to be an MBA to work under Watson. A lot of it is right place at the right time, or know the right person, or the right role. And to dovetail on, IBM Connections Cloud will soon one day be known as Watson something. I mean, Watson is it's becoming a brand more than what it was 2-3 years ago with the Jeopardy thing. So.
From my perspective, strategy is key. So I did marketing strategy and corporate strategy here, and even now I still use some of the game theory conversations, and as I hear some of the higher level executive conversations occur. And it really doesn't matter if you're in the Watson division, cloud division, systems group, being able to understand the competitive forces that are going on around you in your market area and look at it from a strategic aspect, or if you're more technical, being able to look at all the data that we often point Watson at to try to make some heads or tails of, and be able to take that data and turn it into a strategy for a particular industry vertical like transportation or like finance, I think is key. So that strategic knowledge you can build here and kind of own here will work for you wherever you end up going in a tech company and probably in many other industries.
I was in a session yesterday with our North Carolina senior exec. Her name is Fran O'Sullivan, and she answered this question beautifully. And I just remembered her answer, so I'll tell it to you. We were doing a cybersecurity camp for middle school girls all day yesterday, and she comes in for this sort of, surprise visit. And they asked her the same question, and she said, you know, what we're looking for are people who are executors, who say, I will get this done no matter what, but also people who are open in their thinking, flexible in their thinking, versus, this is all I know, this is all I'm interested in knowing, and this is all I'm interested in doing, versus being able to be flexible, because it's a constantly changing environment.
So you just spoke about the application of Watson in the financial services. What I understand in algo trading is all about recognizing data patterns, and this is what Watson fundamental is based on. Have you used Watson into algo trading and financial services?
Yeah. Including being able to recognize when fraud is happening. So that's a big one. There's other things too. We're working on a project where there was this research. This is all in research, mind you, so it's not like this news. But in East Asia, there was some groups that had done a study for people who had no credit score. And what they did was they were mining the credit score of people in their immediate social circle in order to give them sort of this pseudo credit score.
Yeah.
So we're taking kind of a step further. So for those who neither have a credit score nor an identity, like an ID, online ID, using something like blockchain in order to give them a unique ID, and then mining the credit scores of those around them in order to be able to give them banking services to those who don't currently have the ability to be banked. These are the kinds of things, the kinds of innovations which I think we'll be seeing more and more and more of the sort of social apps for good using this kind of tech.
So make sure you have good friends.
Exactly. Make sure you have good friends.
I want to make sure I can keep it. And one other thought on that point. This is where the strategy because some industries are easier for us to point Watson at than others. If you think about financial services sector, you have static data, but most of the data people are aware of are investment trading, which is very real time. Well, when Watson was designed, it was designed to be pointed at journals and static data that's been sitting in place for a while, not necessarily to be able to ingest real-time data from various sources. We're working on that. That's where our research division and everything really comes into play. But for the static data, like the scenario Phaedra just mentioned, it's ready to go today, right? Let it ingest all these credit scores that have been sitting there maybe a week or two. As it gets to real time, you'll start to see investors, et cetera, start to use it in various ways.
One more use case for fintech, this was really cool, and I saw it out of Engage the Bay. Remember that the conference I was telling you about out in Silicon Valley? This was the 6th year the city of San Jose has done budget balancing games, right? Budget balancing games, right? So I was asked to come and sort of moderate and arbitrate. And the way they were using Watson was as an empathetic conversation bot to moderate the budget balancing game. So imagine you've got a bunch of citizens, and this actually happened, right? A bunch of ambassadors at the table saying, okay, I'm going to shut off the street lights in these neighborhoods in order to save X amount of money to put it in this other program. And it isn't until the chief of police comes in that says, you shut off the street lights, the chance that your crime rate's going to go up in these neighborhoods is going to go up, right? And then they're sort of scratching their heads like, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't such a good idea. But imagine you can train Watson in that historical data about that city, right? So that it's automated, right? I want to move money from here to here. Here's what happens historically. There's Watson sort of arbitrating and acting as a moderator.
So I have a quick question. We talked a little about like the applications that Watson have, but do you envision the Watson platform going to products such as the Google Home or the Amazon Echo?
I didn't hear the last part.
So do you envision the Watson platform to go into the product, to transition into products such as the Amazon Echo, the Google Home, or just...
Oh, transitioning.
Yeah.
Oh. It's an open environment. These are all open stack environments. So I could have an app hosted on Amazon that uses Watson. And that happens all the time.
And there's a toy that was designed, I cannot remember the name of it.
Dinosaur?
Yeah, the cognitive
Cognitive
toy
toy.
that was designed, has been out for over a year, that does kind of that, kind of think of Amazon Echo for a 5-year-old, basically, right? It's already been out in the market, it's leveraging Watson capability inside of it. So with Google and Amazon and all these other vendors coming out with their own devices, leveraging similar Q&A type capabilities, if IBM's been doing that, as we mentioned before, though, we tend to focus more on industry, and education is something IBM's always been passionate about. So that's kind of how we're going with partners to get to the market.
Thanks for being here. I went through the Consulting by Degrees program with IBM, and I have a lot of colleagues who now moved over to the Watson Group. And so I'm curious what they're up to, how they're engaging with clients, what their teams look like, and just what they're doing over there.
Which Watson?
That's what all of their new statisticians